While we're getting organized, I want to thank our fellowship volunteers for setting up the brunch this morning. Thanks to everybody. You can't lots and lots of carbs. So interspersed in our slides, I found some pictures from this past year. I particularly like this one. I did not know who Santa was until after Breakfast with Santa. Everybody else probably knew, right? It was Santa. That's right. Santa Chrome. We're going to begin with a prayer for St. Philip's. I invite you to say this with me. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for calling us together as your people here in St. Philip's Church, and for the faithfulness of those who have ministered here over the years. Empower us by your Holy Spirit to hear your voice and respond to your call as we seek a new vision for this congregation. Grant us the wisdom to know what to keep and what to change, what to take on and what to let go. Give us strength and courage to do the work you call us to do with unity of purpose and abundance of love. See you all next year. See you all next year. See you. Susan Mason, thank you. Would you like some paper and pen? Okay. If somebody could run to the office and grab paper and pencil for Susan, that would be great. Wait for her to come back. For those who don't know, because we have 8 o'clockers and 10 o'clockers here, so if you don't know and introduce yourself, it's likely they attend the other service. Susan, who comes to the 8 o'clock service with her husband Dan, is also now I'm going to get her title, was just promoted. I'll have to ask her when she comes back. She was the executive secretary to Bishop Perry, but promoted to another title. It was a newsletter. Susan, thank you very much. What is your current title? I just was spacing on that. Diocesan Program Administrator. Let's recognize Susan for her promotion. All right, we probably should have a motion to designate Susan as the secretary for this annual meeting. Is there a motion? So moved. And a second? It is seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thanks, Susan, for volunteering. So we're going to next adopt the agenda, and I'm losing track of who's doing what here. Is that you or me? That's still me. Okay. So the agenda for our meeting is fairly simple. We do our elections, we're going to have our strategic plan update, finances. We pray for those who died over the past year. We thank our outgoing vestry members. We will not read aloud every report that was written. That's why you have the written ones. You can take it home and read it. We'll just accept them by title. We have a couple of courtesy resolutions and closing prayer. Is there a motion to accept the agenda? So moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? It's moved. Second. All in favor? Second. All in favor? Favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And then I wanted to take just a second. Okay. All right. We're going to move on. We're going to come back to that. All right. Deb, take it over.
Can you hear me? Okay. So this is our mission statement. I'm just going to read it aloud so we're reminded of it. As members of Christ's body, nourished by word and sacrament, empowered by the Holy Spirit to yes. Yes.
Dan and
Welcome. You guys go to 8 o'clock, right?
yeah, 8 o'clock.
Great.
Yeah, 8 o'clock.
Great. Anyone else? Yeah, you guys haven't been here that long. So it's Pat and Paul Gutman. And you guys go to 10 o'clock usually, right? Okay. Welcome. Anyone else? Anyone? Yes. Welcome. And you have 8 daughters? Oh, great. Is that it for this year? Or a year and a half? Okay, yeah, stand up. Okay, so it's Danielle running, and her husband's not here. And 8 o'clockers. Okay. And the first couple was Danielle and Deb Wilhelm. Okay. So welcome everyone.
Item of business is election of new vestry members. Those who've been nominated this year so far are Carrie Shimatero. She was filling an unexpired term. She served just this past year and is running for a full term. John Garman, who attends 8 o'clock. John, as I call your name, stand up so people can see who you are. Carrie, where are you? There's Carrie, John Garman, and Ken Zadral. So, our nominees this year for vestry. We do an age match fight. The last one standing. If there are no other nominations, then I would accept a motion to, how do we put this in Robert's Rules of Order? To direct the secretary to cast a unanimous ballot, I think is how we put it. To close nominations and secretary to cast a unanimous ballot. So, moved by, she's excited. She can't wait for this new vestry to get right. Seconded by our other retired vestry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for that. The other election is delegates to diocesan convention. The convention is held normally the last Friday and Saturday of October. There's one meeting, pre-convention meeting by Zoom a couple weeks before that. Here you see our lovely, charming delegates from last year. So far this year we have 2 nominations. We really could use 3 nominations plus 3 alternates. So it would be great. If we do not get all those people elected today, the vestry can elect additional people after this meeting. But so far we have nominated Zach Crum and Barb Stanishevsky. Additional nominations, who would like, I will give you a little plug. Going to the diocesan convention, you would think is boring, and sometimes honestly it is, but it's also, and raise your hand if you've ever served as a this is fantastic because this is a cross-section of people who have experienced diocesan convention, and I'm going to speak for them, but every one of them will tell you that the plus of it is connecting with other Episcopalians from around our region, forming relationships and hearing about what's going on. Am I right? Anything else anybody wants to add about why it's great to be a diocesan convention delegate? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I've gone like 3 times, I think, because it's so fun. I just really love seeing, I was amazed the first time I went because I didn't know that there were so many different congregations and they were all Episcopal. I was kind of ignorant about that whole world. get there and you don't regret it at all. You never regret it.
I will say, over the years, the business part of convention has gotten more streamlined. And so on Friday, there are workshops presented by either diocesan staff members or visiting speaker on issues of interest. There's a banquet on Friday night, and then Saturday, the big Eucharist, where we worship with all the congregations in the diocese or representatives. There's a guest preacher for that, who's always very dynamic. And then we have the business meetings. In between, you can go out to the display halls where people are selling or talking about different ministries. It's really, I'll stop talking about it, but I really think it's worth going to at least once to see the bigger picture. So, having said that, who wants to be the third delegate to convention? Let's at least get one more delegate.
I can't vote, but I can't nominate, but I put one in.
Please.
I have really enjoyed going to convention. One is my job. So we get to spend the weekend at me too. But I also went to general convention, which is the larger church. And the delegates, they're responsible to read the resolutions that different committees have put forward as to how our church, the church we attend, the church we love, is going to move forward in the future. We're responsible for the actions that we take. I think now more than ever, we need to be paying attention to how we are going to be helping our community. So, as you can see, I get worked up about this. So not only consider diocesan convention, but this year we will also, at diocesan convention, be voting for our delegates from Michigan to go to general convention in Phoenix in 2027. So that's something else to consider. Okay?
Awesome. All right, any other nominations? Paul? Paul, okay. We have Paul Gutman as our third nominee. Any others? We have more. We can have alternates. All right. Is there a motion to close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Zach, Laura, and Paul as our delegates to diocesan convention? Is there a motion? So moved. Seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. We have our three delegates. Excellent.
Okay, so the strategic plan update. I think a few months ago I was up here talking about it. We'll just do a quick review and Father talked about today at church. So in spring we had 100 people completed, and then Joe Kleniak did some follow-up interviews, and then we had the congregational meeting where we had our priorities and choosing the top ones. And so here's a reminder of the four top things that we were going to work on. So, make necessary changes to attract families with children and youth to our church. And if you would like to stand up if you've been a part of that. Newmans, you kind of have been part of that. And me and Father Eric. Okay? Create more opportunities to form meaningful relationships. Who's been on that committee? Is that Fellowship? Okay. Anyone else? Fellowship committee? Okay. And then support for elderly parishioners. I know Jen does a lot with that. Anyone else? Working, that's the pastoral care. Just pastoral care in the church. Okay, Laura, yeah. And Selena, Jen, thank you. And then to expand outreach ministries. Okay, so we've got Barb and Megan. Anyone else on this side been on those committees? Okay. So then anyways, these four committees have been formed and people have been working on things, and so what we'll do now is I'll have okay, so we did that. So then we're going to do a report. That is a great picture. So we're going to hear a brief report from each of them. So the fellowship committee, who is going to talk about that? Is that going to be Selena? Selena. Need a microphone?
Okay, so my name is Selena Crum. I'm, along with Carrie, one of the vestry liaisons to the fellowship committee. We've met twice as a committee since we formed. And our mission, we spent a lot of time discussing what are we trying to do as a committee. And one big thing is to decide, what does fellowship mean to St. Philip's? We know as a goal, we all voted on it, but how are we going to live that out? So we came up with a vision statement, and we said that St. Philip's is a safe haven where people of all ages can form meaningful and lasting relationships. And that's all great, so now we have to figure out how we're gonna do that. We want to focus on 3 categories of activities. One are small groups, so these could be groups based on affinities, interests, age groups, circumstance, anything where a group can get together and do something like that. So it could be, like the Euchre nights are an example, okay? That's a group that meets because of shared interest. A men's fellowship might be getting started again. I know that at one point there was a chess meeting. So we want to encourage those as we go forward. Another big area is coffee hour. We want to make sure that those are continued into the future. And thirdly, occasional larger events. So that's, in the fall we do a stewardship kind of centered big event. This year was Oktoberfest. If the bishop comes, we want to do a reception for her. Lunch and soup suppers coming up soon. So that list doesn't mean that's all we're going to do. If you have other ideas that fall into one of those or another category, please come talk to us and we'll be happy to entertain all ideas. But these 3 are what we think we want to focus on going forward.
Okay, so one of the main things of fellowship.
We have that. There's news. The first one we have it.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, so
I can speak to that if you want.
okay,
Just, we'll introduce the current.
okay.
He
All right.
practices a lot.
So, well, one of the big parts of fellowship, of course, is coffee hour, and so that's something that we're trying to simplify a little bit more. Everybody, of course, really enjoys all the treats, but sometimes it's hard to get people to always, host that and the expense that's involved with it. So we're looking at simplifying coffee hour a little bit more. We also have a need for having more people that are certified in the kitchen. Ken Zadral, I guess, has volunteered to go through the certification for that. And St. Philip's does cover the charge for that, but we're thinking probably at least one other person needs to be involved in that. And somebody that's certified doesn't necessarily have to be in the kitchen at all times, but they have to be there to they have to just make sure that guidelines are being established for safety of food handling. And we're also looking for people to take the basic food safety course. The health department will come in as long as there's 10 or more people to do that.
I just wanted to add that it does say we need a person for coffee hour, but Linda Southby and Kathy Haney have agreed to be the co-coordinators of coffee hour. And that doesn't mean they have to be here every single Sunday. It's that they're coordinating a schedule to have volunteers to make coffee, and if they want to bring other little snacks, that's fine. But thank you to them for that.
Okay, anyway, we'd like to have more people involved in our committee. Right now it's pretty small. The next meeting is Tuesday, February 4th at 7 p.m. in the parlor. So we're really welcoming, new ideas. So please, if you'd like to be involved in that, please come, to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Can we say thank you to Karen Funyak, who's done all of this for the last 7 years?
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. about that?
I
Anyone?
know-
Anyone?
I know,
I mean, I can read it if it needs to be, but.
But I know Judy is on her way, I think, to Rio. So she was not zooming in, I think, for this meeting, but
Okay.
I can also jump in there too.
Yeah, right.
So again, with the help of Joe Freniak, they established a vision statement for outreach. Really, outreach already exists. A lot of our ministries are going fine. They did some debate about, do we need to add more outreach? Not at this time. What they want to do is really strengthen and coordinate our existing outreach efforts and make sure that we're really doing them to the best of our ability. And the vision statement they came up with is St. Philip's is known as a congregation of and for the larger community. And so that's really the purpose, is to be an integral part. And that community word can be local, it can be regional, it can be national, it can be international. It can be all of those things as we see ourselves as part of the whole. And some of the areas that they talked about were pulling together an annual calendar, so the different groups are doing fundraisers, not running into each other. We tend to have a kind of flow to our outreach, so in December, we're all about the Christmas baskets. In May, it's all about SOS and homeless. We have our UTO in gathering. We have, thanks to the Tierney family, we had, I think of Dean's wonderful hats, a big push to provide clothing, both for Neighborhood House and for St. Peter's, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that the leaders of those different groups would be supported, have a group to talk with about it, and then also coordinate their efforts. They will be open to new opportunities, so if you get fired up about, we have a brand new parishioner who came to the meeting, and she does a fantastic ministry going to laundromats, where a lot of people who are struggling in their lives have to go because they don't have their own laundry. And they just pay for everybody's laundry for that night. And they are available if someone wants to talk or share a prayer concern or difficulty. I was really touched by that. She's really excited about that. That may be something in the future we want to think about adding. We will work with other groups. One of the things is we want to make sure we're coordinating. ECW, in their visioning this year, really identified that a core purpose of the ECW is outreach. So it's fellowship and it's outreach. And outreach, they've chosen, their focus is for this next year bound together. And so we want to make sure that there's always a representative from ECW, so we're coordinating our efforts as a whole church to do the best that we can for these different agencies. Regarding Bound Together, we've had a long-standing connection with them, and I'm super grateful to Megan Tierney for sort of reinvigorating that connection by volunteering there as their tutor. So that's wonderful.
We need more tutors if anybody wants to come out. You can talk to me about it.
Current needs, they said they'd like the members of the parish to support their efforts, both by volunteering when there are these big events that we do, come out and support it. One of the things I know that's near and dear to the hearts of almost every Episcopalian is outreach, doing something to help others. And so volunteering and then supporting the fundraising efforts. So you all do a great job with that. Keep up the good work, is what I would say. Anything else on that?
Another focus on outreach is justice and peace. And justice and peace is mostly advocacy and education. That it's wonderful to do outreach and help those who need it, but we also need to start focusing on some of the sources and try to figure out how we can help in that way. So we're working on it. Excellent.
So the Pastoral Care Committee, who wants to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, please.
Oh, is that?
Under outreach, I think again we should emphasize how much St. Philip's contributes to support the 12-step programs.
Right. One of the great outreaches we do is by opening this building to a whole variety of groups, including many, many 12-step. Good point. Anybody on pastoral care want to share?
Do your last hurrah, Jen? No, I think we're okay. So, I think they also had a meeting, talking about the vision
pastoral care
statements.
is next.
Okay, and their vision is St. Philip's provides spiritual care for parishioners in need.
So where outreach is focused beyond the walls of our church, pastoral care is really focused inward on how do we care for people. We've had, between deaths and serious illnesses and job losses and you name it, just a variety of needs. And so pastoral care really formed during my sabbatical to make sure that we were getting communion to people who were homebound on a regular basis. But now it's kind of taken another step and said we want to continue to do that and also see ourselves as providing spiritual care for parishioners in need alongside the rector and other ministers. So their focuses are pastoral visits, Eucharistic visits, prayer, and then sharing information with other parishioners. So for example, this committee can't do transportation, right? The people in that group don't have the wherewithal to organize transportation. But we know that's a need for many people who are older. And so if that's a ministry that develops, then the pastoral care committee could be a liaison with that. We have a member of the committee, the chair, who also is our coordinator for the prayer chain. And so making sure that we're communicating to the prayer chain the needs of people after there's a visit, that kind of thing. So making sure we're connecting with the other groups or people that can help in this area. Questions, thoughts? And our needs are the same. Additional people interested in providing. But these are, I want to say, these are our 4 areas that we as a church are focused on. We want to make sure that we are supporting them through our efforts and ministry. So if you're called to or feel interest in any of these, I strongly encourage you to get involved however you can, whether it's a little way or a big way. And please contact Jen Hatchett if you have questions or interest in that. Anything else, Jen?
No, you did a wonderful job.
Okay, the next one is the ministry with young families. So we did meet. That was me and thank you, Matt Hosky, and Father Eric, and we met with the Newman family and the Adamic family. And so we talked about our visions and values, and just hop in, you're doing a great job anytime. We wanted every child at St. Philip's to feel that this is their church home and they are equal and valued members here. We are committed to upholding safe church practices to ensure the safety of children and all members. We want to provide the best programs we can to help children and families grow in their faith, and we want to involve children more fully in worship and activities.
And I love these because I grew up in an Episcopal church in the 60s in California. And the motto of the church was probably at that time, children should be seen and not heard, and seen as little as possible. I got scolded several times because I like tea. I had a Welsh granny. I would go to the adult table at coffee hour and I'd get my hand slapped. You belong at the kids' table over there. In other words, you are not a full member of this church. And I resented that. And so I have always wanted to be part of the church where children are central to the life and ministry. Now, we don't have a lot of kids, but we want to do everything we can to nurture and support the kids that we do have. And the courageous parents who get up on Sunday morning, get their kids dressed, and get them to church. I want to, and it's just like you guys this morning, but I want to applaud them and all the families through the years who have been willing to do that. So, I always say, we don't care if they make noise. It's okay. We can handle it. We like having young people in church, and we want to do more to grow them. We have a great opportunity, which I'll talk about in just a second. So we met with a couple of the younger families. We're working with them to try to coordinate schedules and get meetings together. That's probably the hardest challenge right now. But we also have an offer from our diocesan staff person for ministry with youth and young people, and that's Carmen Higgins. She's going to be developing relationships with a handful of churches that she wants to be a pilot program for developing ministry with kids. And so we'll have a good coach in Carmen, I believe starting this next fall. We're going to meet with her on Zoom first to say, okay, in the meantime, how can we support what Colleen is doing? How can we support what's going on? One of the things that's a big transition for us is that we have had two women who have done a phenomenal job nurturing our youth. And I'd love for them to stand. That's Jane Brown and Kathy Rubino. What are you doing? I just want to say on behalf of the whole church, we so appreciate the work and ministry and love that you have shown to our young people for how long? 15 years?
I started right after Ian was confirmed, so when was that? How long
He's now
ago?
29.
So,
And
Kathy's been
Not the age
here
you
longer
are.
than that. So, I don't know.
30 plus.
15 years for me,
Yeah.
maybe 20 years for her. Yeah.
That's a long time, so thank you all
We love
so
teenagers.
much. Jane has indicated that her call from God is taking her in a different direction, and so she'll be stepping down as youth leader. Don't know yet about Kathy. We'll see how she's feeling, but we will definitely need to have more people involved in ministry with children and youth going forward. That can be a challenge in a congregation that's mostly older people. So I just invite us all to be praying hard about that, because when people move from childhood into adolescence, it's a time when sometimes they want to back away from church, but it is relationships, like the relationships that Jane and Kathy formed and nurtured, that can make all the difference in the life of a young person. So please be praying about that. That's a place where we really need to work on in the coming year. Anything else? All right, thank you to everybody who's been on these committees that are continuing. This is not all finished, right? The work that we began with that CAT survey, continued with the interviews, we are just really getting started, trying to figure out where we're being led in these 4 areas. Jamie?
A quick question about the outreach piece.
Yeah.
Is RISA part of that? Is the outreach committee familiar with the ecumenical social action that we're involved in, that got started with the Hashimi family and all the churches that are involved in that?
One thing, I haven't heard much from that for a while, so
Okay,
it needs to get re-energized, but yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's mostly been a couple of us participating, so that's a great question. We do work with, and I think that's been part of our vision, is we want to work with local churches. We don't want to go it alone. If there are other people in the same ministry, let's do this together. It works a lot better. So, thank you. Thanks to everybody. Jump in when you see an area that you're interested in or want to know more about. Please, this will only work. It will only work if we all support these 4 areas. So, do your part. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Deb. Jack, you're up.
Thank you. I'm going to have to lean here because those of you that don't know me, I have a horrible case of neuropathy. And it's really bothering me the last couple of weeks. So
We'll give you a chair.
I might do that. Thank you.
There's one right there.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Okay, we're going to start off in your program. You have 3 pages. One of them is two-sided. We're starting off with our 24 year. Okay. I'm used to doing this with the microphone right in my mouth, so I'm sorry. All right, the first page, we're showing the results of 2024. We're showing the plan, which is our budget. And when we did that budget a year ago, I think we were a little gun-shy and very, very conservative. And you will note that on that sheet, you will see the plan at the bottom, the net income or loss. We budgeted a loss, if you will, a deficit of $43,000. So we were looking at having to finance a $43,000 loss. If you look in the actual column next to it, you will see we actually lost, I think, $1,488. $1,488 as compared to and I will say that's because of the generosity of all of you. You will look and pay particular attention to the total income. You will see that we budgeted $322, but we actually got $343,000. So we were significantly over budget there. And then the other good side is the total expenses. We had budgeted $365,000, and we came in at $344. So the best of both worlds. We did it, and that was wonderful. So consequently, when I get to 25, this will have some impact of what we budget for 25. We're not going to budget a $43,000 loss.
I will note too, as I mentioned in the annual address, when you look at facility costs, there's a significant savings.
Here is we have a roof loan for the flat roof. Here is we have a roof loan for the flat roof. We took out at $26,000. It's down to about 19 or in the 18s. And I'm looking now at what we're going to invest. We need to invest some of our money. And it's if you use just CDs and these creative savings accounts now, you're not going to get 5%, which is what we pay on the flat roof loan. So we have a situation where we need to make more than that, or I would suggest the vestry would pay it off. So we'll look at that in the future. Father Eric mentioned today, one of the things later that's not in any of these reports will be the parking lot. We'll look at the parking lot down the road. But this is the actual these are the actual numbers for 24. Any questions on these numbers? Okay. Second page, we give you our reserve status. We show all of our bank accounts and our investments. And this is where I say we're starting to build up some big numbers to the extent that we can move some of that into investments. We have a couple of options. We can deal in a traditional sense with very safe things with brokerages, or we can deal with our Heritage Fund, which is a coalition of a number of parishes through the diocese. We have a growth and income fund. The only difference is with the growth and income fund, we have some restrictions. So we're kind of looking at all that. And I do believe I have permission from vestry to move into the growth and income if we so desire. So I'm looking at that right now to see what's good. But here's a list of all our assets. Then we show our restricted funds. You see we have a large number there in memorials. And that's part of what we would invest. Our total liabilities come down to $528,579 in assets. That leaves $51,000 in our uncommitted reserve.
The Jack Anderson slush fund.
Yes. That's only when we do some math and creative accounting.
I want to interject one thing. If you notice a big jump in the total assets and in memorials, that is because of an incredibly generous gift that we received this year from the Garmin family. I want to honor John and his family. They suffered the tragic loss just a little over a year ago of Kathy, beloved member of the family and also beloved member of this parish. And John took me out to lunch some months later and said, I'd like to do something in Kathy's memory. And I was thinking, oh, that'd be nice, buy an investment or something. And he said, oh, I'm calling my broker and I'm giving the church $200,000. So that is a huge gift. It is partly going to help fund the parking lot and partly going to help us build up this investment fund for the prosperity of the church. Because it's our vision as a vestry that we need to build up our endowment so that we can cover the unforeseen things that happen, especially with buildings and grounds. And so as we build that up, we will have a stable source of revenue that will enable us to take care of the property so that all of our current year pledges and gifts can go towards the ministry that we really care about. I'm so tired of coming to you all every 6 months and saying, hey, another building crisis, we gotta do another capital fund or another HVAC unit or whatever the case may be. So my dream is that we could have that endowment. And I just want to say a great debt of thanks to the Garmin family for making that leadership deal. Really,
And John, that's part of what I'm moving, is we had that in a creative savings account before, now we're gonna do that, so, thank you. So this is, now, in essence, we've shown you the uncommitted reserve at the bottom of 51,000. If we ran a deficit this year, and it's a small deficit, we would simply run it against that uncommitted reserve. So we're sitting there in good shape. If you ended up having an awful situation and you had a deficit more than that, we would go to one of our funds, like the Gordon Case Fund. We still have it sitting there at $104,000. So we have some decent backup here. The next page, the back of this one. I think that I covered some one.
sorry, we maybe have a different order.
I have the history. This goes all the way back to when Father Eric started in 17. And it comes up to 24. It gives you an idea of where we've gone. Look at the total income, for example. We were at 272 back in 17. We're up at 343 in 24. Of course, the costs have gone up from 272 to 344. That's likely. You can see we had a couple of lean years there. But we're at the point now where we're at least coming close to breaking even, which is very good. Okay, now we're going to talk about 2025. This is the budget that vestry just approved last week. We are not as gun shy this year. We're looking at a fairly break-even budget. We have now 91 pledge units. That's up from 80 a year ago. We have a firm of that 330. We have a firm number of around 313 right at the moment, but that will grow. And so we're going to get up to 330 in pledges, and then non-pledged income of 30. So we're looking at total income of around 385. 385,000. We're approaching 400,000. We've broken down our various areas of personnel costs, facility costs, our apportionment, which is based on the average of the last 3 years, has now gone to 33. That's at the full apportionment. And believe me, that came in handy when we got the roof loan, that we paid the full apportionment. The mortgage is still 14, other ministries 51. Your total expenses will be about 386. So we're looking again at about losing $1,000. So that's pretty close to break even. Can't get much closer. Any questions on this? Yes, Jim?
The facility costs that's operating, that's not,
That's all your maintenance and utilities and all of those.
there's not the loan in there.
No, and it's a very good question. And we've done that. We have a situation now. I'm just going to bring this up one time. And if you recall, we talked about it a year ago. We had a lovely case with Consumers Energy where they were legally extorting money, in my opinion. They did this to this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where they estimated our gas, not only the cost, but the usage, and they came up with some real inventive numbers. And we got a thing that said we're gonna pay $1,900 a month in gas, which is just insane. Because today we pay 9 something. So we got on the phone with consumers right away, we couldn't get them to move. So we went for a while, they finally reconciled. We had a huge overpayment, which we knew. So now you go back to them and say, could we get the overpayment? Well, no, we're gonna take it off your future bills. So last year we had very little gas expense. So when I say we lost about 1,400, that's part of it, all right? We won't have that this year, but we're doing other things. So we feel fairly confident with that loss of $1,000. And some things, as always, this is an educated guess. Some things will be a little over, some will be a little under, but we're gonna try to hit that. Yes, John.
So that's why the facility, even though facility costs for last year were 83, down from the 84, that's, or 94,
We're
that's why
catching
it's
up.
up to 99.
We're catching up, yeah.
Because we're not, we aren't accredited.
That's
That's
correct.
exactly right.
Exactly right, yep,
Good eye.
yep, precisely.
Chair, can you tell us what non-pledge income and other income?
Yeah, non-pledge income is for plate cash and people that come in and donate, but they're maybe not regular. We haven't probably given them a number and so on, and they've not made a pledge. They've not yet made a pledge.
Jane, our bookkeeper, Jane, has been trying to separate that out. We used to all kind of throw it into pledge, whether it was pledge or non-pledge. Larry probably remembers that. So what she's tried to do is take out that non-pledge revenue, so that what shows up in the pledges is just actual signed pledge cards. What we expect for that. Then we have the expected part of non-pledge. A lot of times when people join the church, they are giving regularly, but they haven't signed a pledge card.
That's right.
And so that's a growth area. What we've really been saved financially over the last 7 years by growth, right? Because new people have come, they've been giving, and we weren't counting on those as pledges at the beginning of the year. During the course of the year, that added to our revenue, and it bailed us out of some of our deficits.
And that is our growth factor because.
We gotta keep growing.
Yeah, some of those, because obviously some of the non-pledge this year will move into pledge
Right.
next year. So you need to keep that growth to build that up.
Yeah.
So.
That's where it's hard sometimes to budget exactly.
Exactly. It's an educated guess. And we hope that we keep the people coming in. So it's an ambitious budget. It looks good.
Other questions? Thanks to Jack and the Finance Committee, Jonathan Lindley, the chair of the Finance Committee, and everyone who works really hard putting all this together and keeping track. Thanks to Jane Zellers, our bookkeeper, who does a phenomenal job. She is the business manager for Kirkwood of the Hills, which is a huge church, and works here 1 day a week for fun, basically.
She actually understands what I tell her.
Yeah. So we really have an excellent team, and I'm so grateful to all of them.
Do you have a capital plan for the property? A 5-year capital plan, these are the expenses, these are the capital outlays we expect, your 1 year, 2 year, 3
So
year.
that's a really good, that's a really good Bill Wagner question. We have, go ahead, Bill, I'll let you know. Hey, Bill. So we had a question about whether we have a 5-year capital plan of what the expected expenses are mapped out for that.
Our committee, the finance committee, headed by Jonathan Lilly, has done, I think, a really good job. For quite a few years now, we actually have a rolling 3-year plan. So in this past fall, as we went through everything, we now have plans for 25, 26, and 27. So again, it's not 5 years, but again, we do take a real good look. We do a lot of what ifs, questioning things, trying to look at trends like that. And it's really been pretty darn successful if you look at the last number of years. And as Jack just showed a few minutes ago, you can see we're typically fairly close to what we've budgeted. I mean, I don't think we've had any years where we're off like 20% or 15%, either up or down. Obviously, you'd like to be, almost to zero, and even have a plan of just $1,000 deficit is excellent as a percentage. It's way less than 1%. So it's not 5 years, but we do take a good hard look and ask a lot of questions and do a lot of what-ifing. And again, Jonathan has done an excellent job with our input as well to plan ahead as best as we reasonably can. So 5 year no, but I'd say 3 years at least, yes. So sometimes you talk about future things, and one of these years we're gonna need a new roof above here. We don't want to talk about that right now, but that'll be probably within the next 5 years. We're not sure yet, but yeah, so we're quite a ways there anyhow. Not quite, I think we're very happy with what we've done in that regard.
So probably the short answer is no, not a formal 5-year capital plan, but we forecast out what we think the big building grounds needs are gonna be, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not all dollars, we're starting to look at parking.
Thank you. Any other questions? Good questions. Thank you. Jack, thank you so much.
Give money.
We, last year we had a short conversation video with John and Virginia Higgins, and this year we have one with Rick and Jane Maybauer. Because of Jane's mental injury, Rick does most of the talking in this video, but enjoy a conversation with two of our beloved parishioners. Nope, didn't get started. Oh. Things work when you practice, and then. We will come back to that. At this time, I want to pause and give thanks for the lives of parishioners who died this past year. We're going to read their name and just keep a little silence after each name. Then we will pray together that prayer that is there. As I think about the names on this list, I can see them, many of them, in their pews. Maybe you can too, when I lead worship, and many others. I know that they pray with and for us in the communion of saints. We as Christians believe that those who die are still connected to us in the communion of saints. And so I know that they are still blessing us in a variety of ways. So we give thanks, Lord, for the lives of Kathy Garman, Mary Jane Parker, Sarah Sampier, Carol England, Wilma Alcala, Sylvia Tomlinson, Caroline Deering, Renee Kinlan, David DeHaan, Rob Hallback, and Margaret Griffin. Let us pray. O God, the King of saints, we praise and glorify your holy name for these members of St. Philip's and for all your servants who have finished their course in your faith and fear, for the Blessed Virgin Mary, for the holy patriarchs, prophets, apostles, and martyrs, and for all your other righteous servants, known to us and unknown. And we pray that encouraged by their examples, aided by their prayers, and strengthened by their fellowship, we also may be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light, through the merits of your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you. There are so many people to thank for their ministry at St. Philip's. I want to say a word of thanks to our staff. We don't have staff meetings as whole staff. We have a staff party every year. So this is our Christmas party. That's our whole staff gathered together for I think the only time this past year. We are really blessed by the work and service and ministry of all of our staff. And I'd like us to just express our appreciation right now. Also, really grateful to our wardens. They're elected by the vestry to serve on the vestry as special leaders. And this year, our senior warden, Deb Rifior, and our junior warden, Bill Wagner, have done an outstanding job. Thanks to both of you. And they're staying on vestry. They don't get a gift because they're staying on vestry this year. We do have a couple of outgoing vestry members, and I'd like them to come forward at this time. Jen and Megan, would you come forward? Jen Hatchett has served as vestry member and warden a couple times as warden, and we just really appreciate your service to this parish. Thank you so much. And Evan Tierney, thank you so much for serving on vestry for the last couple of years. You get a book and a certificate suitable for framing. Thank you, I want to thank Karen Funyak. We honored her a few Sundays ago, but Karen, stand again and be recognized for your excellent work as our hospitality coordinator. Our fellowship committee has big shoes to fill, and we know it, but thanks, Karen, for setting such a high standard for us. I also want to add a person to thank, and that is the now just retired head of ECW, Anna Plotnick-Woods. Anna, are you here somewhere? Come on, working weekend. Anna, come on. So Anna, many of you may know, is leaving us. She is moving to Texas to be near her family, and we are heartbroken about that, but actually really happy for you to be near your family. You found a place that has gone through.
I know closing in is first week of February.
First week of February, say a prayer that everything goes smoothly. And for that, because we know moving is kind of a pain, here's a little gift to thank you for your ministry here. And wish you God's favor. Before we do, I guess while we're doing that, I'm going to have Deb do the written reports filed by title only. Unless you want us to read them all to you, we can. But if not, we'll vote on them. I'm going to try to get this video.
So anyways, these are the written reports. reports, if you want to read them. There's the Rector's Report, the Altar Guild, the Red Cross Blood Drives, the Century in Prayer, ECW. The Greeters, I have notes. The Greeters, room rental, that tells you how often, it's been rented, the money that came in from that. The Rochester Area Neighborhood House, SOS Lighthouse, a junior ward report, which is always very interesting. You guys would may be surprised at how much work really gets done in this church for the building. It was great. And then stewardship.
So, is there a motion to accept those reports by title? It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thanks to everybody for your hard work. Those reports, I know reading reports doesn't sound like fun, but it is really cool to see all the ministry that happens in this church. So, all right, I'm going to play this video now, and we'll move on.
This is Rick and Jane Maybauer. We live here in Rochester. We've been in Rochester since 1974. As most of you know, at the church, Jane had a head injury in January 1st of 23, and so many of the questions will be answered by me because I didn't have a head injury. And Jane grew up as an only child of Dr. and Mrs. McCall in Wyandotte, Michigan. And she attended public schools there in Wyandotte, and then went off to the University of Arizona and spent a couple of years there. And following that, she came back to Detroit and went to Clare College to be in business, and finally she ended up as a court reporter in Detroit and did a lot of court reporting before we married. I also grew up in Wyandotte. My dad was a general surgeon, her dad was a family doctor. And I went to the same high school she did, but she was a few years younger than I, and so we did not meet in high school, but her parents had the only outdoor swimming pool in the city at the time, and my best friend lived across the street, so I frequented her pool. This girl was 5 years younger than me, she was never around that pool. So we didn't meet at that time, but we knew of each other. I went on to Albion and got a bachelor's degree and a Master of Science degree in radiological physics, and then medical school where I became an orthopedic surgeon. And once we got to Rochester, we had to find a church. I grew up as a Congregationalist, 1 block away from the Episcopal church in Wyandotte, where Jane attended. And surprise, surprise, we attended the Episcopal church in Rochester. Way back when Margaret had just gone to college, she's our oldest, and Ann and Kathy were still here in high school. Jane, one weekend started having a headache, and she said, "Boy, I didn't think I drank that much." And that headache went on. And so finally I said, "We have to go see a neurosurgeon and get a study." And that was long before MRIs. And so the study was done with rapid sequence x-rays and an injection of dye. And they found that she had an anterior cerebral aneurysm, which is in the front of your brain, and your brain has 2 big lobes on the top. And as we, boy girls, age, our brain gets bigger, we hope.
And at that bifurcation of the vessel, or one vessel going to each side of the brain, in women, and I don't know why women have a propensity for this, as ladies in their very late 30s and early 40s, they get a little hernia, if you will, a little bulge in that. And if that ruptures, a third of the people die, a third are paralyzed, and a third have little glitches. And Jane fortunately had a little glitch, and she lost her recent memory. But we got along well with that. She worked 20 years for Janet Warner, 4 days a week. And so we just got along with that. But the aneurysm, she couldn't die. And so we went back to the church. And I believe Father Mike was there at that time. Well, I'm a big boy and supposed to be a surgeon and handle all this. But there has to be something out there. As a surgeon, I can put people together, and I did a pretty good job, but I can't make them heal. And every people say, well, biology will do that. Well, yes, biology will do that, but there has to be something else. And I found that in Christ. Or we found that in Christ. Jane ended up on the altar yoke for many years, and that we were part of the 10 o'clock people, and it was just part of the day, did the altar yoke. And I was asked to be on the vestry by Mother Cynthia, and she's not a lady you want to say no to. So I got on vestry, and I was re-upped. I forget if it was 3 or 4 times. But I learned a lot about the church. Did a lot of the outside work when I was there. We were in a big problem at that time. And we had to go sell the house next door. We had to figure out how the parking lot could be divided. We needed a lot of repair. We had no money. When the recession came, a lot of our engineers and people had to leave town just because they needed a job someplace. And our church, that was built for 250 families, ended up at 99 or 98 families, which was a big problem. We did, at one point, redo some of the front of the church. We've done more since, and it looks very good. There are 2 big deals in Rochester that I hold dear to my heart. One is Crittenden, which is had bumps in the road with Ascension, and now we're at Henry Ford Hospital. But St. Philip's has been St. Philip's, and those I've donated to the hospital. And when they're building the last building, that became a big deal, and I was on the vice chair of that committee. And the only thing I got from Ascension was that the foundation money would stay in Rochester, which was very important. So I got involved in soliciting money from other people for the building on the foundation. I was active in the Crittenden Foundation. And Mary Eberline was head of that at one time. And she and I did a lot of work to solicit money for one thing or another. And presto, Mary Eberline is at the Episcopal Church. And when I was on the vestry, she was on the vestry. And we talked about how we could somehow encourage our parishioners to, at some time, think about putting St. Philip's in their estate plans. And so if I'm a big mouth telling people they should do that, maybe I should get on the stake and do that. We all have the ability to make a living. We all are not millionaires or billionaires, but we don't have to be millionaires or billionaires. We just have to have a thought that we want to give something. And the best thing a person can do is give somebody a little bit. If that little bit is a church, God bless.
Thank you to the main office for their willingness to do
Rock and roll.
So before the resolutions and our meeting ends, I've had a request from a couple people that because Father Eric turned 60, that we can sing happy birthday to him. So choir, I'm not a singer here, so start.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Eric. Happy birthday to you.
Getting to the big numbers now, that's what it is.
So resolutions. Be it resolved that this annual meeting of St. Philip's Church, Rochester, Michigan, sends its greetings and a copy of our annual report to the Right Reverend Dr. Bonnie A. Carey. Be it resolved that this annual meeting of St. Philip's Church, Rochester, Michigan, sends its warm greetings and appreciations to the following clergy who have served here and their families: the Reverend Jeff and Susan Boyer, the Reverend Cynthia Garman, the Reverend Ann and Paul Weber.
So I think Deb can be the mover. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We will send them a copy of the annual report. The bishop did tell me that she downloaded our annual report. She must be on our mailing list. She said, I was really glad I could download the report, and she read through it all and sends her warm regards. So. Any other business before we wrap this up? The blessing from the three kings?
Mary was just saying that all leftovers need to go home and they have things for you to pack them in.
So yes, take home some of the goodies. Let's, you've been sitting a long time, let's stand and pray together. Almighty and ever-living God, ruler of all things in heaven and earth, hear our prayers for this parish family. Strengthen the faithful, arouse the careless, and restore the penitent. Grant us all things necessary for our common life, and bring us all to be of one heart and mind within your holy church, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I declare this annual meeting of St. Philip's Church adjourned. Sine die, or however they say that. Thank you all. Vestry, new vestry, you are not excused. New vestry, meet in my office in 5 minutes.